In graduate school, I took a class called Sex and Death. And the professor was this incredible award-winning poet named Dorianne. And Dorianne opened our very first class together and asked us one by one to go around the room. This was during COVID, so it was the Zoom room. Go around the Zoom and share the death in your life that was the most impactful to you. The class was divided. For the first part of the semester, we did death. For the second part of the semester, we did sex. And all of our readings, all of the clips we watched, everything was related to those topics as they relate to creative writing, poetry, writing fiction, writing essays, etc. But what was so fascinating was that introductory question bonded us as a class instantly. This gets to something that I really believe and that my best friend really believes, is that so much of small talk keeps us from intimacy with one another. In order to be truly intimate with people, to get to know them, you have to find out the things that have made them feel. And if you can ask the very first question, I mean, this is going deep right away, but asking the death that most impacted someone, any point in your life, you can share any story, but what that does, not only the act of sharing, but the act of finding that information in yourself, the act of being vulnerable enough to share that story with someone and having a loving, safe space to have that story heard, to talk about grief, maybe grief that has been compounded and never resolved so openly. It creates the type of intimacy that I think so many people dream of. And that class ended up being one of my favorite classes from grad school because I felt so close to these people. I'd always look forward to the calls. I mean, these were like 3-hour-long Zoom meetings during the heart of COVID when things just sucked and everyone was hating life, myself included. And I was like, oh, I'm so tired of doing everything. I'm so tired. Everything's just so exhausting. But I looked forward to this class because I felt like these people care about me. I think that's what the thing is when you share an aspect of yourself, when you're heard, when people show up for you fully and hear a story. I talked about my grandmother and the formative influence that she had in my life, and how the void that when she passed that was left, how it just excavated my soul, how I didn't know how to inhabit the world. I dropped out of college temporarily and I lived in a cabin in Vermont, and I just spent so many days just wandering in the woods, wandering by the Connecticut River, because I couldn't understand how a world existed in which my grandmother, who taught me how to read, my grandmother who held me when I cried, who fed me as a little boy, I couldn't understand that she was gone. I couldn't understand that she was dead. It was so strange to live in a world in which her corporeal form no longer existed. And being able to share that with a group of people that you've just met, and then hearing their similar stories of their siblings or their grandparents or their parents, some people, their brothers and sisters, their best friends, people who have just suffered extraordinary grief, to be able to know that about someone immediately helps you to feel this connection to them, this sense that this is a human being and I want to show up for this person. This is my friend, even though you don't even know them. So I would ask you, if you feel comfortable, sharing your stories of the death that was most impactful to you in the comments. And hopefully we can create the type of atmosphere that Dorianne created, where we are sharing and connecting with one another and feeling seen by just being able to share openly our grief.